Home sellers, remember the past few years when homes were just flying off the market in hours and everything was a bidding war? Well, not today. Today, listings are sitting longer, buyers are pickier, and that certainty that all sellers had that of course it's going to sell has vanished. But all is not lost. We've sold over 2,500 homes, roughly 50 times more than the average realtor, and we've seen these cycles before. So if you're going to get ready to sell or you're trying to sell, stick around because today I'm handing you our playbook that'll take you from sitting on the market to sitting in the driver's seat. This is how we do it. All right, here we go. Welcome to Talking Realty, the podcast for home sellers who want to make more money, save time, and avoid headaches. I'm Glen, realtor and founder of the Ohio Property Group, where we do the same things as traditional realtors, but instead of charging a 6% commission, we charge a low, flat fee. So you keep more money and you still get better results. Check out all the free seller tools today at talkingrealty.com. And if you love the show, hit that subscribe button. Now, let's get to it. Hey folks, let's see what our flat fee sellers did this week. We had 6 closings for a total of $1,085,000 in sales. Total commissions saved for the week, $45,302 for an average of $7,550 per listing compared to what they would have paid if they had used a 6% realtor. What would you do with an extra $7,500? Would you hire someone to climb all your trees and remove all the leaves in one shot onto a tarp? I don't know. But first, you need to check out how we're doing things over at OhioMLSFlatFee.com. See you there. Home sellers, let's face it, for the past several years, we've had the upper hand. We've kind of in the seller's market, right? Homes sold in days, sometimes hours, usually with a bidding war, no inspections sometimes, prices way over list price. But now the tide is drifting out. And when the tide goes out, you kind of start to see who's been swimming naked. But seller expectations over the last few years have gotten to an all-time high. And unfortunately, that is not sustainable. And I think we're seeing that evidence now. Buyers are getting a little bit of swagger back, and it just kind of feels uncertain, maybe strange, maybe a little scary, but no worries. The conditions may be changing, but the rules of the market, the rules of supply and demand never change. They never do. So we've got you. So this slowdown, which is not a huge surprise, over the past 25 years, over the past the 25 years that I've been around, there have been many cycles, nothing like COVID, but also some pretty deep crashes as well. I don't know what the technical term is for that, but we see a lot of ups and downs in this business. One minute, it seems like I've got more buyers than sellers, and the next minute, it seems like I've got more sellers than buyers. And, our job is just to balance that and help our sellers address the prospect of selling their home in today's market. You'll hear me say that a lot if you stick around, not just today, but pretty much every day, because all I care about right now is today's market. We can't do anything about what's behind us, and we have no idea what's in front of us. And if anybody tells you they do, they're probably selling something. So beware. But buyers have lost probably 25%, maybe more of their purchasing power from the peak, or I guess the valley of interest rates. That was unprecedented. Years and years and years of exceptionally low interest rates. Well, I was alive during the come down of the 20% interest rates when people couldn't afford to buy anything and banks wouldn't approve just about anybody. As my dad always said, the only people that got loans back then were people who didn't need them. And that has certainly impacted the number of buyers willing to come off the bench and buy. Builders are also slowing down the existing home market a little bit because they're doing some crazy stuff. Builders have been sort of suffering for quite a while, and we're starting to see them get pretty crazy with prices. Sometimes you can buy a new price, depending on where you are in the community. You can buy a new property cheaper than the local existing properties, and they're offering a lot of incentives, financial incentives. They need to move this inventory. They can't just keep sitting on it. They've got to get some cash pulled back out of it so they can go invest in other communities that are maybe more favorable. Another factor that's impacting things in terms of this market that's easing. I think it's balancing, and I've said that many times. I don't think it's necessarily sliding into a buyer's market, a full-blown buyer's market. I don't think we'll see that personally anytime soon, but certainly could happen. But return to office, I hear more and more people talking about this, that they're being asked to come back. So imagine, if you will, several years ago, a bunch of people went virtual, and then it kind of stuck for a while, and companies became enamored with it. They started selling off buildings. They started telling people, you know what, stay home, it's fine. Well, now that kind of pendulum is swinging back the other way, and more employers are starting to call back their remote workforces. Well, when they were sending them out from the office, a lot of people were like, you know what, if I'm going to be working from home, one, I'm saving a ton of money because I'm not driving back and forth. I'm not having to buy lunch. I don't have to, buy fancy clothes for work, if that's the kind of work you did, or uniforms, or, just whatever it is. If you were doing remote work, there were some definite benefits. Well, one of the challenges of going from in-office to remote was that a lot of people decided they needed a dedicated workspace in the house, and a lot of kids were working or schooling from home as well. So that's drove quite a bit of the demand during COVID. People wanted more space, they wanted more dedicated space in the house for specific activities. So they were saving some money, and the buyers kind of fueled a pretty good run on the market. There was a lot of competition for these suburban homes and more rural type homes. And so those prices kept drifting up and up and up, and the market did what it did. Well, now we're flipping the other way. Now they're being called back. So they may have overbought a little bit, maybe not. We don't know what their interest rate was when they bought, but there's certainly no real incentive to refi that thing and bring the payment down, although that probably is coming at some point, cyclically speaking. And what we're seeing is that the reverse of that pressure. Now they're being called back to work. So now a lot of people sold off their second cars because they didn't need it. One car was fine. So now they're having to figure out, how am I going to get back and forth to work? Some are quitting and then taking probably an inferior job. If they are going back to work, assuming they kept their car or they went out and bought a car, now they've got to, go back to doing the lunch thing, the commute thing, the gas thing, all of those things. It's spelling that all the cool stuff when you popped your $300,000-$400,000 home on the market, and minutes later, like piranha after raw meat, buyers were going crazy. That's not happening. So we're seeing a lot of inflated inventory. We're also seeing a lot of buyers starting to back out of deals after they get them under. Remember, I said in the opening, buyers are getting pickier. So they're more willing to walk away. So all of this is coupled with the fact that we still have a ton of sellers that have expectations from a few years ago. Maybe they bought. I'm seeing a ton of listings come through that they bought during the COVID peak, and now they're hoping to recoup that. Well, they'll be lucky to get what they paid, or maybe a little more. But coming in and saying, hey, I bought it last year for X and I want to sell it for X plus 20%, those days are not current days. So we need to get sellers' expectations, because here's the thing. If you've been spoiled, and a lot of sellers, let's be honest, got spoiled, it's hard to come down from that. It's hard to say, well, I was on the other side of that. I was the buyer and I got hosed, and now it's not fair. Okay, well, that's probably all true, but it doesn't change anything. Ray Dalio, principle number 1, embrace reality and deal with it. So during the COVID market, homes didn't need to be perfect. The pricing strategy, if you want to call it that, barely mattered. You put it out there and the market immediately told you what it was worth. And if you put it out there and it didn't sell in a couple of days, well, you missed, and you probably missed by a lot. So buyers were competing for anything that was even reasonably priced, like it was freaking Black Friday at Walmart back in the old days, not the current one. It's kind of lame, but those of you who are in my generation, you remember people fighting over carts and stuff. Oh, God, it was great. Anyway, but that era, it's not here. It's not today. I was going to say it's over, but it's never really over. It's on the shelf. We've moved on to a different version of it. Buyers have choices again, and they're acting like it. So the demand, however, that's like I said, all is not lost. Buyer demand never actually goes away. But we see a number of sellers, and I talk to sellers every day, that maybe came on the market a few months ago So there's the first outlier, is that they've been on the market for a few months, but we're not seeing tiny shifts that are driving it. We're seeing people dropping their price $15,000, $20,000 because they came in way too high. And again, we advise they decide. We don't tell people what to list for. We make suggestions. And by the way, I don't have a crystal ball. I can only tell them what the comps are doing and suggest they go below it. But if you've been around me for 10 minutes, you've already heard this speech. Take the lowest number you'd be happy with and go lower. That's how you list your property. But anyway, the demand is still there. I guess that's what I'm saying. If every home were priced right, there would be enough buyers, at least in Ohio, to absorb the inventory. It's not like we have a shortage of buyers. We do not have a shortage of buyers. We're very balanced. There's a buyer out there, at least one buyer out there for every property that's on the market. And the only reason I know that is because there are more people searching in any given zip code, because we track all this. There are more people searching in any given zip code than there are homes for sale. So I already know, maybe not all of them are serious, whatever. But the point is, if I were seeing, say, 150 homes for sale in a particular neighborhood, but they were all getting 5 or 6 searches a day, then I would be a little more concerned. But the opposite of true. There might be 15 or 20 homes for sale in a particular region, depending on how big your circle is, but there are hundreds and thousands of searches, not hundreds of, hundreds and thousands of buyers searching for property in that market every single day. So I know we're okay. But in short, we're balanced. Hey folks, almost every seller I know has at least a few questions about the process, which is why we offer a totally free, no obligation, one-on-one strategy call for anyone with a property to sell in Ohio. On that call, we're going to help you plan your listing launch. We're going to nail down your price. We're going to make sure you're ready for offers and inspections and appraisals, and hopefully help you get a bidding war off the ground. Check the show notes, the YouTube comments, or just head over to talkingrealty.com and book your free call right now. Seriously, hit pause, go do it now, and I'll talk to you soon. Let's get you on the right track. All right, back to the show. Okay, so there's your quick state of the market as of this recording in mid to late 2025. We know kind of what external factors are driving this market shift, but let's talk a little bit about the controllables, because external market factors, we can't do anything about those. We can pay attention to them, we can acknowledge that they're there, but we really can't do anything about them. So I want to talk about some of the things that sellers, that's us, are doing to make it, well, shall we say, a little worse. All right. So one is really the price anchoring effect. So when prices rise really fast, as they did a few years ago, as sellers, we're sellers. Naturally, we're going to anchor to the very highest point that we can reasonably get away with. That neighbor who sold last year, or that Zestimate that we screenshotted a few years ago. So now fast forward to 2025, and we're thinking the same thing. We're still hanging on to that because why? Because we see what we want to see. We believe what we want to believe. Now, buyers during COVID didn't want to believe that prices were going up that fast. They didn't want to believe that they had to bid way over list to even have a shot. They didn't believe that they would have to waive all inspections. And in some cases they did. And they were shocked, and some sued because they were that upset afterwards, feeling like they got hoodwinked or they got misled. Okay, that's the effect of a crazy market. The buyers are in denial and the sellers are partying down and going with like, oh my gosh, it's this, and now it's this, and now it's this. I'll bet it could be this. So that all fueled, that human behavior part fueled it. Emotions are expensive, truth number 3. Well, the opposite is now true. Buyers are very quick to observe that, hey, by the way, things ain't what they used to be, so I'm not going to act like we used to act a few years ago. But sellers are now flipping roles with buyers. They're in denial. Not everyone, but many of them are in denial, coming on the market with what they think they think what's fair based on what they paid for it, what the market's been doing, but then nothing happens. Sellers don't want to believe they missed the party, so they hang on like a dog latched onto a mail delivery person, and they don't want to let go. No, I'm sure, and I hear this, I'm sure this is right. All my neighbors are selling. So there has to be something else wrong. It can't be my price. It's your price. These sellers who are hanging on and praying that something will somehow magically change things back a few years, is only making the problem worse, because what's happening is more and more inventory is starting to show up, which is now fueling even more buyer behavior of, well, I guess I can take my time. I guess I don't have to give the seller everything they want. So higher inventory, higher days on market, lower list to sell ratios. We're starting to see that spread. Buyers are getting more bold, ready to go ahead and lowball you because they want to know where the bottom is, and they know there's a probably reasonable chance that they're not going to have any competing buyers, because all buyers are kind of hanging out on the sidelines waiting to see what happens. If the buyers think that the market is shifting into their favor, then guess what? It's going to start shifting there. And then pretty soon there's going to be signs showing up, like more inventory, like higher days on market, like people getting a better deal. Oh man, I didn't pay list price. Are you kidding me? Buyers don't care. They don't care what your neighbor got. They don't care what your Zestimate was 2 years ago. They just don't care. They care what today's market is telling them. The way buyers make their statement is through activity. They come in, they click, they set up showings, they make offers. All right. I already promised you're getting traffic. I know you're getting traffic if you're in the MLS. If you're not in the MLS and you're in Ohio, you need to call me. But anyway, the other thing is that sellers have far less margin for error than they did in the past. Like I said, during the peak of the market a few years ago, you didn't have to prep the house. You barely had to market the thing. I mean, all you had to do was whisper to somebody down at the bakery that you were thinking about selling and you had 5 offers. So like it was like falling off a log. And then pretty soon the market would take care of it. They would come in, word would spread, and all of a sudden you've got multiple offers and you're going to get maximum market value for that day. There was a lot of panic buying. That has pretty much disappeared. We're not seeing the crazy panic buys, 30, 40 offers in hours. We're not seeing that. But as I said, the basic supply and demand rules, they don't change. They don't change with markets. The only thing that changes is supply and demand. So for those of you who missed this in high school, if the supply is high and the demand is low, your pricing is going to go down. The reverse is also true. If the demand is really, really high, think toilet paper during COVID, and the supply is low, then the prices skyrocket. They go up and down. Well, I believe we are in a balanced market. But regardless of where the market is, if you're trying to sell something, and there are a lot of other people trying to sell something like what you're selling, and there are fewer and fewer people fighting over those things, your price is going to go down. At a minimum, it's not going to go up. So if you come on the market and you've been hanging out and you've had thousands of people look at your listing and nobody's biting, you are priced too high. My favorite thing for a seller to tell me is, well, everything around me is selling. Yes. What does that tell you? That tells you that there are buyers actively shopping in your market, in your exact market, because, and I quote, everything around you is selling. That means that buyers are coming into the market, scanning what's for sale, and they're choosing your neighbors. But pretending the rules of supply and demand don't apply to your home is a fool's errand. This is how you lose money. People tell me, I don't want to lower my price because I don't want to lose that money. Well, A, you didn't have the money. Okay. You were asking for it and not getting it. So the only time you lose money is when you fail to face reality and deal with it. You lose money when you wait too long. That's what happens. When you wait and the market responds over and over and over, day in, day out, and you just ignore it, that's when you lose money. So what's the fix here? I'll just cover this for you because it's my favorite move. When a property is not selling, when it's not getting the activity that we need, the very first thing I do is I check the conversion of their web stats. Check your web stats. You need to be, say it with me, all your traffic that's looking, probably hundreds or thousands of buyers a day that are looking at your property online and driving by your sign every day, you need a minimum of about 5%. I'd prefer you to be much closer to 10 of people who are seeing it and clicking for more information. When we get click-through rates above 5, closer to 10%, we get action. We get showings and we get offers and we get busy closing that property. When we have week after week after week of hundreds or thousands of buyers cruising and less than 5% are clicking, that's when I get sellers who are very unhappy. That's when you are very unhappy. So The other thing you do, once you get your web stats to the point where you need them, you need to monitor your showing conversion. So if you're getting up in the right click-through ratios, but you're not getting showings, you have another problem. Right? You can set up a call and I'll talk to you about it. You can email me what you know about your property and I'll help you, or talk to your listing agent if you have one. But you have a disconnect there. If lots and lots of people are clicking on your property and nobody's setting up showings, there's another issue. And it could be a number of things. It could be something about your description or your photos. But at the end of the day, I hate to say it like this, it's probably price. There's another obvious factor is that if your property is hard to show, I did a whole episode on showing friction a long time ago. It all still applies. Make it easy to show, especially if you're not getting showings. If you're seeing those things happen, so you've got 5+, hopefully 10% conversion rate, click-through rate, and then you've got 1 to 2% of click-throughs are setting up showings and you're still not selling, then you have another problem. Something about your property doesn't match your marketing. So you need to solve that because, folks, this is a mathematical certainty. If you're getting these types of click-through rates, you have another solvable problem. You just need to solve it. Look at where is the process breaking down and go in and fix it. If you don't know how, get a hold of me, buy my book, do something, because I promise you the answers are there. I get that it might be overwhelming. So reach out to me, tell me your story, and let's see what we can do to help you. Another thing you can do is the 1-2 punch, the 1-2-3 punch, we'll call it today. Make a strategic adjustment. If you've gone 10 to 14 days without a showing, without a question, without anything happening, just adjust your price. If you're in a hurry to sell, if you need to get going, drop your price. Don't care how far, as far as you can stomach. How's that? Drop it as far as you can. Let's ignite the market and get them big. Because sometimes when you go too high and you get stale, and then you do a pretty significant drop, sometimes it shocks the market. And then all of a sudden, multiple buyers who've never seen it before because you were too high, or that saw it and were waiting, are jumping in. That's how you get bidding wars on stale properties. It does happen. You can engineer it, but make that price adjustment midweek. And then it's kind of like hitting the refresh button. You're going to see views are going to go up. Click-throughs, hopefully, right with it. And your listing jumps back to the top of emails, alerts start going up, it gets reserved up to buyers who are looking in your market every single day. Follow that with an open house. Just do an hour, maybe 2 hours, from noon to 2 on Saturday. Again, unless the Ohio State Buckeyes are playing a football game, that's not a good idea. Then flip it to Sunday, noon to 2. Why short? Why early? Because short is great. It lowers your pain. It also increases the odds that multiple buyers will see one another. You have a 6-hour open house, odds are, even if you get 10 people, they're not going to see each other. Nothing motivates a buyer like another buyer. That happens live at an open house. If you do a 60-minute, 90-minute open house, you much more increase the odds that buyers are going to run into each other. The last piece of this puzzle, the 1-2-3 punch, is if you get a spike in traffic, or you get an offer, or you get people saying how many offers you have, when's the deadline, all great signals that you've hit the number. Announce your offer deadline, even if you don't have one. But if you get one, I would definitely, if you've got good traffic, and we have a whole playbook, I'm not going to cover it here, set an offer deadline and then work that entire process. We've given you the whole playbook, the whisper campaign, the announcement, the wording to use, how to email agents and buyers that already have offers, how to drive highest and best, what to do if you don't get your offer, how to respond, how to leverage them up. All of it's there. Okay. I've probably covered that 5 times on this podcast. So look around. It's definitely, or reach out and I'll send it to you. Home sellers, this episode of Talking Realty is brought to you by our friends at Associates Title. This team is shaking things up by focusing on what truly matters, putting you, the customer, first. Whether you're buying or selling or investing, whether you're for sale by owner, whether you're working with a realtor, doesn't matter. They've got your back with incredible cost savings and the latest technology to streamline the process. Their secure online portal keeps everyone in the loop, from buyers and sellers to lenders to agents, all while keeping your data safe and communication crystal clear. If you're getting ready to make a move, don't underestimate the importance of having a great title company in your corner. Check them out today at associatestitleinc.com or call my friend Ryan Phillips at 614-419-2418. Remember, they're not just in Ohio, they're in a lot of states. So give them a call, but do not leave your title company choice to chance. And definitely don't let the buyer or their agent make that choice for you. All right, back to the show. So as we head into this discussion about if I'm not getting what I want, I should just lower my price. That is the case many times, but we like to back it up with data. And before you go lowering your price, make sure we've cleared out all the other issues. There is a process when you're selling your home, which is we want web traffic. So you need to be in the MLS for any of this to matter. Everything I'm about to tell you to matter, you need to be in the MLS. Yes, you can get a web presence on Facebook or Zillow, but it's not the instant, massive cannonball of activity that you get by going into the MLS, because the local MLS not only attracts all the local realtors, but they all have syndication agreements with national, regional, and local websites. So when you put your property into the MLS, it is getting just scattered everywhere. So if a buyer is even thinking about maybe someday looking at a house, we're going to make sure you're right in front of them when they do. Let's assume you're on realtor.com and you're getting this report every week. It shows up, you get the real data so you can make good decisions. You're going to see when buyer interest starts to fade. Naturally, at the very beginning, when you first open, you're more likely to have clicks. But if you're overpriced or you have a bad front photo, you're going to see the click-through rate from traffic to click-through is not going to reach our minimum 5%. We need it to be 5 to 10%. We need to track that day by day. And every change we make, we need to see whether that impacts it positively, negatively, or not at all. So when you get these numbers in front of you, you solve for each link in the chain. If your click-through rate is low and your photo is fine, okay, folks, we're probably looking at a price issue. So you can check those other boxes first, but then face reality and move forward. If you've got great click-through rate, say 10% or more, and you're not getting showings, you have another problem, because you should be seeing 1 or 2 out of every 100 people that click should be setting up a showing. That's the typical conversion rate on a property that sells. And we reverse all, I just covered this in the last episode, or 1 or 2 ago, where we started with the closing and we worked backwards to show you what the numbers look like all the way from initial marketing through closing. But we know that if we've got good click-through rate, we should be seeing showings. If you're not seeing showings, then you've got another issue. You really do. And you need to diagnose that. Now, yes, lowering your price may help you get more showings, but if you're not getting showings, but you have a high click-through rate, you have another problem. You need to diagnose and solve that first. If you can't, get a hold of me. I will help you, because there's only a handful of things it could be, but maybe they're hard to see from your end of the barrel. But normally I look at showing friction. All your clicks are stopping at the door. They're not setting up showings at the rate they should be. So reduce friction as much as you can. If you're getting tons of showings and no offers, you're probably very close, if not there, on price. But you may have some other problems and you need to diagnose those. But my point of all this is, without the data, you're dead in the water. You don't know. You're guessing. And guessing is a very, very dangerous strategy, because the reality is, buyer trends are incredibly predictable. When your search, clicks, showings, offers, contract, closing chain is built correctly and converting all along the way, we are going to see success. But if you're plateaued at one of these areas, it's most likely price related. So get the data, figure out what's going on. If it is price, that's your signal to run the market reset playbook that I described earlier. It's like having a heartbeat monitor. It's like having all this diagnosis from your doctor on what's wrong with you. Could be this, could be that, probably is this, but without the testing, we don't know. The data will absolutely tell you where the problem is, but knowing what to do and doing it are not the same thing. And as a seller, if you're not happy with your activity and you're in the MLS and we've cleared out all these other hurdles, you have your hand on the throttle now. You are deciding the outcome of this particular story. It's like when you have the tools and we know that the problem is price, the activity will go up when you lower the price. It's like when you have the data and you know what to do, it's like we've cleared out all the other problems. You can just reach out and turn on the faucet, and guess what? Water comes out. When you lower your price after we've cleared out all the problems, it's like turning on the faucet, buyers come out. They start clicking, they start setting up showings, they start making offers, and Bob's your uncle, we're at the closing table. That's how this works. That's how reliable this is. Conversions start to improve, and eventually we get showings, we get offers, you make money. Or you don't. You wait it out. That's fine. If you don't want to take the advice, which is you need to lower your price, that's okay. It's your call, but your pricing decision is not my fault. I've handed you the information. I've given you a path that will lead you to success. Your choice is to take the path or don't take the path. It's like when I go to the doctor, which I do a couple times a year, as men of my age should, and she says, "Hey, Glenn, you need to eat less." Get ready. This is a shocker alert. You need to eat less. You need to eat better, and you need to exercise more. Wow. It's like, have I never heard this before? Has all of living humans in 2025 not heard that if you want to lose weight and be in better shape, you should maybe eat less, eat better, and do a little exercise? Well, we all know it works. Every one of us. I know this. And not only that, I've heard it. I've heard it a few times. But if I'm still overweight and I'm still out of shape, I don't get to blame my doctor. Right? She did her job. She's like, "Here, Glenn, here's the path. Here are the results. And here's the data from all the testing we run every 6 months. And guess what? Not where they should be. So I have the formula. I have the formula for success. I'm choosing not to take it. I'm choosing to go another path. I'm choosing to come up with other reasons or just ignore it altogether because I don't want to face it." Okay? Well, that's on me. That is not on my doctor. So here's the thing. The market is not broken. It is balancing. There are plenty of buyers out there for your property. The sellers who win now are the ones who adjust faster, who take the data and react quickly. Because remember, you can't fight the tide, but you can learn to surf or kayak in my case. Price it right. Stay active. If you've got several weeks of no activity, use the market reset playbook whenever momentum starts to slow down. Now, if you want to argue with me, I am all ears. You set up a call, you send me an email. I don't care how you get a hold of me, but let's mix it up. It actually kind of sounds like fun. And you know what? That might be some exercise for me. My doctor would be so proud. You call me, you email me, let's have it out, and we both lose some calories. Maybe we learn a little something, or at least, we have a good time. And with that, I'll let you all get back to your day. Thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you learned a little something, maybe had a good time. The Talking Realty podcast is brought to you by the Ohio Property Group, a family-owned company where we sell homes for a low, flat fee. If you've got a question, you've got a guest, you've got a topic for a future episode, I want to hear from you. You just want to argue with me, I want to hear from you. Head to talkingrealty.com and say hello. Until next time, keep making smart moves in your real estate journey. For the Ohio Property Group, this is Glen signing off. And remember, you can sell it. We can help.